Hi, I'm Trantor. Today we're going to talk about Aura Finance. We're going to talk a little bit about the Balancer Wars, but also just my take on what I think's going on with a number of other protocols and how they may seek to build out their positions in the Balancer Wars and gather as much potential yield on Aura Finance as they can. We'll also talk a little bit about what's going on with some governance and how things are currently progressing with Aura Finance more broadly. Importantly, though, if you're not familiar with Aura Finance, please check out some of my earlier videos where I do a bit of a deep dive on what the protocol does. And importantly, if you're looking for financial advice, you've come to the wrong place. This is a DeFi protocol, and anything to do with crypto and DeFi is highly speculative. So, of course, do your own research and take everything you hear from anybody with a grain of salt. First thing to talk through is what's currently happening. So some broad news. We're basically quite keen to see that the total value locked overall for Aura Finance has now exceeded 300 million. This is a significant increase in a protocol that's only been around for really 2 months. Notably, you'll also see that the veBAL, that is the vote escrowed balancer currently on the books, so currently controlled by Aura, is now at almost 29%. With those staked Aura BAL tokens, which is what happens when you convert your veBAL to Aura BAL, currently receiving a 90% APR in stablecoins, in balancer tokens, as well as in Aura tokens themselves. You'll also notice some words here about the limit orders, which are ongoing with CowSwap. At this stage, 350,000 Aura tokens that are left over from the airdrop are now being sold to provide further runway for the DAO. This is particularly likely to be beneficial as it provides operating expenses, etc., and may prevent future dilution. Okay, so some of the news. These are things that I've sort of pieced together over the last week and a half to 2 weeks since our last video. And we get these things from Twitter, from Discord, from various other protocols. So the first is to look at Ohm. Ohm itself is Olympus DAO, and it looks as though Olympus DAO, from their current plans, are looking to bring the majority of their treasury-controlled liquidity across to Balancer. This has included at this by now up to $20 million worth of assets in a three pool essentially, which has gone across to Balancer, and it appears this would be their primary source of liquidity in the future, although that's not fully migrated yet. So interesting. What has happened is in OIP 11, so Olympus Improvement Proposal 11. I should actually say 110. That's a mistake. So in 110, my apologies. In 110, you'll notice there's basically a proposal out there to start to stack Balancer and Aura tokens. So what am I thinking here? Well, I'm thinking that Olympus DAO, as it brings across the rest of its treasury-controlled liquidity, is going to seek to get as much Balancer and as much Aura as they can, potentially lock it in Aura, and then vote to get additional yields on their own treasury-controlled liquidity. So in other words, to provide yield and additional fees back to themselves and to their own protocol. Of course, I don't know this for a fact, but that's certainly what seems to be the case. I would say something similar might be happening with Redacted Cartel. So first off, Aura is seeking to have their token whitelisted by Redacted, and this is currently, again, being voted on in the Commonwealth, and I'll show you that shortly. But again, if you piece things together, you can see there's the recent inclusion of the Ohm Butterfly V2. So Butterfly is only recently, I should say Redacted Cartel, they've recently upgraded their token, the Butterfly token, from the version 1 to the version 2, and they appear to have brought the majority of their liquidity onto both Curve and onto Balancer itself. It seems likely, therefore, that they're going to seek to get the best possible returns and, again, yield on that position. And they may do that by depositing stuff into Aura or alternatively in capturing additional Balancer tokens. So this could be very interesting. The whitelisting of the token is also indicative of what we think might be going on in terms of, the bribes that they receive on Hidden Hand now, and I should say rewards, may be something that's actually going to be kept by Hidden Hand rather than something that's immediately sold and compounded back to ETH, which is the current plan for Butterfly version 2, or basically the RL Butterfly tokens. The last one to talk to is some governance stuff. So in this one, we've got the Aura Improvement Proposal number 11 and some gauge updates. First, there's a recent proposal in ARP 11 to suspend some unhealthy gauges for Aura. They're considered unhealthy because they're essentially smaller cap type tokens that are currently, when combined with what's happening on Balancer, are receiving over the 10% sort of, at this stage, arbitrary number, which is out there to represent what might be getting too much of the vote. What this means is essentially you're seeing too many rewards. That's too many Balancer emissions going to pools that are quite small. And this is something that Aura is seeking to do its part to prevent too many extra votes going towards those pools which might be deemed unhealthy. Now, this may be reflected in some Balancer governance coming soon. I don't have any inside word on that, but there's some sort of scuttlebutt and some rumors around the Discord, which basically talk to some actions afoot to try to limit some unhealthiness, basically, that might be occurring. A lot of this is happening because at the moment there's still a whale. It could be a group of individuals who are still very powerful in the Balancer ecosystem, and they're providing essentially a lot of votes towards smaller pools. This is providing outsized returns for those small fish who are able to get into these pools and sort of get the highest yields possible on some of these smaller tokens or these smaller LPs. So interesting stuff happening there. But again, this is what's deemed to be the unhealthy gauges, something that's being moved forward in this AIP. So again, interesting for the long-term health and viability of Aura and Balancer. I'll go through now just quickly online what we've talked about so far. If you go across, importantly, to Olympus up here and you click on governance and to forum, that'll take you across to OIP 110. And this gives you a summary of what's going on. So in this instance, they're seeking to whitelist Balancer and Aura tokens as strategic assets. And the important part here is that Olympus aims to use Balancer as its main liquidity hub in the near future. That is interesting stuff there because that just goes to show where they're seeking to put the majority of their liquidity. Notably for Aura, Aura seeks to maximize returns on those Balancer liquidity positions, which is something that's which is quite interesting. Same again now for what's happening. This is on the Commonwealth for Redacted, and you can see this is a proposal to make Aura a tier 1 asset. At the moment, there's a number of different options, but the majority of the feedback here is generally positive, although again, we'll see how that plays out. It doesn't matter if this vote happens or not. What is interesting is that when you click on Redacted here itself, and you click at Butterfly, if you want to trade it, you'll be swapping it directly on Balancer or on Curve, which are the two of the biggest DeFi sort of tokens. And it seems more than likely they'll seek to build out their positions. Why do I say that? First, well, one of the biggest holders of CVX is Redacted, and their wrapper, Pyrex, is currently focused on wrapping and providing the best possible returns to CVX, which is the governance token for Curve. At the moment, Redacted does not have a position of control or vote weight sort of stuff in Balancer, but they've just moved there. So clearly they're providing significant liquidity on Balancer, and yet currently they don't hold significant Balancer tokens or Aura token. So very interesting. I don't want to say the writing's on the wall, but it seems likely to me that they would seek to amass something like potentially Aura, and maybe one day there'll be a Pyrex Aura as well. So I guess we'll wait and see how that plays out. We'll look at Balancer now. I talked about how liquidity is moving across. I want to prove to you that I'm not making things up. The first is if you type in OM in terms of filter by token, you can see an OM at 50% and Butterfly 50%, a brand new pool currently with about $2 million in it. And you also note that OM has significantly started to increase their own LP position here in Balancer as well. So if we click on those, we go across, you'll note the first one, this is the OM Butterfly pool. Again, all quite new sort of updates with the investment about 4 days ago of 1.4 million, and then the rest sort of happening a number of different things at the same time. So not currently traded, not currently listed under veBAL. It's this veBAL position here, which we'll come back to very shortly. And I just wanted to highlight again, this OM DAI wrapped ETH position here has 20 million with an additional 14 million brought in 11 days ago. So again, I think this is starting to show some pretty good indications that OM's moving across. So both of these pools that I just mentioned previously are not currently listed under this. So this is veBAL, which talks to where liquidity incentives are actually eligible. So pools eligible for liquidity mining. OM's tokens and Redacted's tokens are not currently listed here, but there are a number of different tokens that are. It's likely they'll seek to do that in the near future so they can get their own rewards. Now, if we talk about some of those gauges we mentioned before in terms of unhealthy gauges, so AIP 11 seeks to suspend votes to unhealthy gauges. And if you look here on Balancer, this is Balancer votes, so people who own a lot of veBAL voting towards specific pools. At the moment, of the total of 100, 34.49% is currently going to this pool, with 15.85% going to this pool, and then you can see the numbers as it goes down. What's essentially happened here is that AIP 11 is seeking to prevent additional votes coming in from Aura, because that's how the system works. They amass essentially this veBAL voting power on behalf of its users, preventing additional votes going towards something that already has such a huge percentage of the overall votes. And why this is important is because, not surprisingly, wrapped staked ETH and the wrapped ETH pool, this 50-50 sort of pool here, which seeks to provide parity, even though that's getting a large percentage, this is a very, very big pool with a lot of sort of mega cap tokens. This token here, however, this sort of collection or wrappage of tokens are very interesting tokens with Wrap Bitcoin, Dig, and Grab Aura, but at this stage does not have the size of the wrap staked ETH position, so it generates less fees. So that's what basically what they're seeking to do is limit additional votes if it goes above 10%. Now, I just want to highlight, 10% on this, still 10% of the total vote weight is still a significant returns. So well in excess, I would imagine, of 100% APR for these tokens. So hardly a disaster or anything. It's just limited to prevent, seeking to prevent how much more it can get. So this is to go through your positions again. And if I talk through what those positions are, this is the APRs as they sit at the moment. That 35% of vote weight is currently providing up to 362% APR, with some of the other tokens providing similarly, very high sort of levels. If we go through all the different APR, we can have a look at different sort of TVL, I should say. The top TVL here, and this is what I wanted to get through before, is this wrapped staked ETH, wrapped ETH position. So with 140 million, it's not such a big deal if that has more than 10% of the veBAL weight, right? Because it means the APRs are a little bit more normal and it's spread out in a more healthy, sort of balanced environment. Whereas if you look at some of these smaller cap ones with the high percentages, 11 million, 10 million, 9 million, etc., these would need to be increased significantly to ensure they have the right type of fee structure. So that's where that's going. Okay, so I've gone into a lot of detail here about a lot of, I suppose, deep things. And if I've lost you so far, I apologize, but I will highlight one last piece. The token price at the moment of Aura token, as to my mind, sort of had a ceiling put on top of it because of limit orders. These limit orders are essentially an opportunity to sell the unused 350,000 Aura tokens, basically that were not collected during the airdrop, to sell those to provide USDC runway back to the DAO itself. This is very positive stuff and seeks to build out long-term health and viability of the protocol. And what we can say here is if you look at each of these different limit orders, they're done by tranches. Essentially, the first tranche was done back here in July. The latest one was 5th of August through to about 11 August. And basically, you have three different amounts. They take a snapshot of the price, then they add 5%, 10%, and 15% to that snapshot price, which is an aggregate of 7 days. And this allows larger orders or larger buy orders from DAOs and from other protocols to come in and buy up big on Aura without massively pumping the price and causing problems, right? It also provides a runway. You'll note that the cost has been going up and up each time because the price continues to tend up as each one of these are filled, right? So by nature goes up. What's been happening is at the moment from the 350,000 left, noting that in the latest tranche, the first sort of set of limit orders has filled that first 46,000. So of the 350,000 Aura tokens total for sale, there are currently two tranches left here, each of 46,112. So there's only 96,000 currently left. Those 96,000 tokens, whether they sell out between now and 19 August or not, they'll open up in another set of limit orders. At the moment, this is a very small amount left that is sort of holding the token at its current valuation. And from there, you can expect the token will not have that overhead pressure of sell orders open in large chunks, and that'll enable the price to I suppose, find where it needs to be. This is not a price discussion, but that's sort of how that'll likely play out. Anyway, look, I continue to be very interested in what's going on with Aura. There's still outsized returns happening, and all you need to do is go and have a look at app.aura finance and compare the APRs that are being provided there versus what's being provided on other areas. And you can also talk to how locking works, etc. And we can go through that as we have done in some previous videos. Anyway, if you like the content, let me know. If you need some more explanations on anything, then once again, let me know in the comments. I know this is quite deep, but looking forward to talking to you all next time, and thanks again.